Well, hello and welcome to season 4. Season 4 of the photography. Yes, season 4. Is it?
I think so.
Season 4 of the photography podcast. So we're back. We're a bit later than normal, aren't we? Because we're normally back a bit earlier, but everyone's been busy and we haven't been able to, sort of get our busy schedules in line. So we're back a bit later, and we're not here next week either. By the way, that's a great start.
It's a very short season.
One episode. Yeah, but we will be back after that. So everyone's here. Good to see you all back, guys. I've kind of missed you all. Kind of.
Missed you too, lovely.
Yeah.
Well, you should have come to the lakes with us then. You didn't miss us that much, did you?
Yeah. No, I couldn't. Like I said, I couldn't leave Beth on her own, and my daughter had gone up to Derby to see her boyfriend, so I couldn't do anything about it. But tell us about the lakes. Did you have a good time?
Cracking. Yeah,
it was good.
Really nice.
Yeah, it was good. Yep.
Yeah. Had a guide that helped us up a fell, which was very, very good. There was beautiful views from the top, albeit slightly clagged in. But the trees looked nice, so I was happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good morning, though.
I've got something to say about that, actually. So I won't going to mention which fell it was, but we left the top and we walked down by that stone wall. I walked down to that stone wall, left you three up there. And then I looked behind me and I framed up a shot. And then Stu came down and you looked on the back of my camera, Stu, and you said, if you just move it a little bit more, pan it a little bit more to the right. So I looked at it and I thought, okay, Anyway, so how long ago was that? That was about 6 weeks ago we went?
6 weeks ago.
Probably, yeah.
Anyway, I was editing a photo on the Mac the other day, and I had the iPad playing, and then Stu popped up, recommend, so I just kind of clicked it. And as I'm watching it, I'm thinking, and I wasn't really watching your video, sorry, Stu, I was kind of listening to what you... And then
It's all right, you weren't missing much.
And I thought, I recognise that wall. Where do I recognise that wall from? And the next thing, you got your camera and you were taking exactly the same photo, well before that I'd taken it. And then I just looked at it and I thought, he knows that composition so well. That's why he came down and just went, just pan your camera a little bit more to the right, and then walked away.
The thing is, he probably charges big bucks for that sort of advice as a rule, so you should be chuffed.
Yeah, it's about 150 quid per centimetre.
Yeah,
I've heard.
I've got the bill already. That came through the letterbox the other day.
Oh! Before we go any further, we really need to say a big thank you. Which, literally, we've just been chatting to him, and I went out of my head. We need to say a big thank you to John Rigby of Laser Scanning Limited. There's a bit of a plug there. He has really kindly, and this wasn't anything to do with him actually sponsoring the channel, he's literally donated us a year's worth of subscription to Riverside, which is not cheap. So I know we were chatting to you a minute ago, John, but thank you so much for your kind donation. It really does go a long way to help. So thank you.
What's Riverside, Gary, just in case anybody's wondering?
Riverside is the platform that we record on. Sorry, yeah, Riverside is our studios. No, Riverside is the platform that we record on. So instead of using Zoom, we use something called Riverside, which is a lot better. Feel free to get in contact with me, Riverside, if you want me to, showcase your stuff. But it is, it's very good. So yeah, but it isn't cheap. And so thank you very much, John.
Cheers, John. Thanks, mate.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Yeah, much appreciated. Incidentally, I've had enough money to buy loads of beer lately as well. Don't know where that's come from, but it's just a joke. So sorry, carry on. Lake District, you had a good time. Was the weather good?
Bit of a mixed bag, wasn't it?
Mixed bag,
from memory.
yeah.
Such a long time ago.
But the most enjoyable thing about it was we weren't in a bloody tent. We were in a nice warm bed. In a quite nice cottage that we had directly opposite a pub, in a great location that gave us access to Keswick and some of the other central lakes, and it was just so nice to wake up in a warm room rather than a freezing cold bloody tent, which is or wet grounds as soon as you go out of your tent and you get sodden shoes, So luxury and worth it.
Joe, when you say opposite a pub, I mean how many steps was it from the front door to the pub?
Probably about 6.
It was that close.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Can't believe I missed it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Can't believe I missed it.
Yeah.
Did you have a pasty in Keswick?
yeah.
3,
Yep.
I think. Yeah.
And a pork pie.
Darren only had one.
Yeah,
Oh,
I was
yeah.
only,
Oh, yeah,
I was
yeah,
only
yeah.
allowed one.
Yep.
Yeah,
What? Why?
because me and Helen like to go to that pasty shop, and a couple of
Oh,
times
okay.
I've been there before, and I've got a pasty without her. So she gave me permission on that trip to have only one pasty. So
Does she feel like you're cheating
what
on her?
goes on in Keswick stays in Keswick, doesn't it? So, yeah.
Oh dear, the lives we lead. I think Dave, you wanted to ask Daz a question, didn't you?
I did actually, yes. I'm very interested to know how come the chair that you're sitting in looks like an explosion in an Indian restaurant as opposed to the sophisticated leather job you used to have.
Because I'm glad you noticed, Dave. Actually, this was no, this chair used to be in that corner, but the leather chair, which is in that corner now, which obviously I love, but it hurts my back when I'm editing photos. So I got a desk chair in here, but it's just not comfortable for the pubcast. Cut a long, boring story short, it was easier to drag this one from that corner and carry that one from that corner. So.
Okay.
All right. It's very entertaining anyway.
Can I just ask, does anybody actually like this chair? Because everyone that I know hates this chair.
Yeah, I hate it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
So-
hate
Oh.
it.
Hang on.
Have
I've got a phone call. I'm just hang on. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, it's the 70s. They want their chair back.
This chair is so comfortable. Let me know in the comments below. Will you? Do you like this chair, or do you think
Yeah.
it's a bit chintzy?
And if you're listening on the podcast, let me try and describe it for you. There you go. That should do it. That should do
This
it.
cost me a telescope. This chair.
Did it?
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah. Was it a Fisher Price one or?
I sold a telescope for £1,000 and went out and bought this chair. Now you know the.
What did you do with the
Now you know the-
£999 change?
Now you know the price of it. Just hate it even more.
Oh, £1,000.
Right, about 900 quid, I think. Anyway, enough about my chair.
Yeah, sorry. Should we? Has anyone else got anything to say? Anyone else want to share anything with the group before we? It sounds a bit like Alcoholics Anonymous, doesn't it? Do you want to share anything with the group before we move on? No. Okay, all right. Let's move on then. Yeah, all right. Okay, so I've got a shameless sales pitch to do. Unfortunately, before we go any further, I'm really sorry. My father-in-law is selling some gear, photography gear. Before we get get the wrong idea. My father-in-law is selling.
You can find me by the swings in the local park. Smack for a
He's
tenner.
selling an OM Systems OM1, an Olympus 100 to 400 lens, an Olympus 12 to 40 f2.8 Pro lens, and an Olympus 60mm f2.8 macro lens. That literally they haven't been used. Like they've probably been used twice. He buys things on a fad and then goes, "Oh, I don't want to do it anymore." It's about £4,000 worth of stuff. Looking for about £3,000. So if anyone's interested, split them down separately. Get in contact with the podcast or me. I'll stick my email below or whatever. And if anyone's interested in any of those, we can work out a decent price because literally he's gone to MPB and MPB are ripping him off royally. And I'm like, well, hang on a minute. I'm sure we can get a better deal here for you and someone else can get a good deal out of it rather than being totally ripped off by, MPB.
There goes our possibilities of MPB sponsorship.
Yeah.
This podcast is not sponsored by MPB. It's sponsored by Wex.
We're going to call this Pubcast Marketplace from now on.
Yeah, Pubcast Marketplace. No, do you know what? He only mentioned it yesterday, and I just thought I can't let him do it. I can't. And there must be, hopefully there's someone out there who's interested in that. And genuinely, it is real. It's like literally as new. He's hardly taken any. I've probably taken more photos on it than he has at his house.
Get me a price on the 1 to 4.
400. I've got here 800 quid, Dave.
Okay, we'll talk offline.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool. Okay. Anyone else?
Want to sell
Jamie?
anything?
Sorry. Anyway, let's move on. Right. Let's move on. Let's have a subject that we can actually talk about that isn't like either me trying to sell something or. So, which one should we go for? Let's talk about winter gear. This was.
Sorry. Oh yeah. Sorry. I'll shut up. Shut the f*** up.
No, go
on, mate. What are you going to say?
No, what were you going to say?
No, I was thinking. Do you not think that we should congratulate Stu on his achievement?
Oh, we said going to do that.
I'm not being funny, but Stu has got a major achievement, and you're flogging cameras.
I was gonna do that.
I mean, that's where you are in the pecking order, Stu. Do you know what I mean?
Well, actually, Daz, I was gonna. Do you like that? Well, actually, no one would know we've had a break. Well, actually, Daz, I was gonna say that I was gonna seamlessly move us into another topic by congratulating Stuart, but you beat me to the punch. So let's do that one now instead. Then, so Stuart, well done on your. Where did you come? Was it second?
I was overall runner-up, apparently.
Overall runner-up, and how did you find that out, Stuart?
Oh God! Right, if you're watching this and you love LPOTY, you might want to close your ears. Yeah. Yeah, it was a bit of a farce, to be honest with you. We've talked on here on the past about the problems that this competition has had over the years, and it feels like, well, I didn't think it could get any worse, to be honest. But yeah, basically, I had a couple of images shortlisted, and if you were in this competition in the summer, you'll probably be aware of the issues that they had with emailing people and contacting and all that sort of stuff. So I had a couple of images shortlisted, and sort of early August, something like that, I got an email to say that they'd been shortlisted, submit the raw files as you normally do, and then I got another email about the end of August, start of September, to say that they basically weren't going any further. So, no problem, thought no more of it. I get another email about 3 weeks later, so sort of towards the end of September, talking about a awards due. And it wasn't addressed to me, it was a generic email. And given that the problems that this competition has had in the very recent past, and obviously going back a few years as well, I looked at this and immediately just went, well, this is clearly an error, because I've already had a rejection email to say that the images that I had shortlisted weren't going any further. Disregard it. So we fast forward to what would it be? It was about a fortnight ago, the LPOTY thing. About that anyway. Yeah. About 10 days ago. I'm sitting at home, and a fellow photographer who was highly commended in the competition, a guy called David Evelyn. I know David because he comes in my shop quite a lot when he's up in the lakes, and nice chap. Anyway, he messages me on Facebook. Now, I don't really use Facebook that much. I just happened to be on there at that point, and anyway, he sent me a message basically saying, oh, well done, you've finished, looks like you finished runner-up in LPOTY. So I'm sort of looking at this and I'm thinking, what's he on about? So messaging him back, and I said, well, I don't know what gives you that idea, because, you know, I had the rejection email at the end of August, so, you know, don't know what you're talking about, basically. Totally dismissed it. I thought he was, you know, having a laugh or something. So anyway, he says, no. He says, I'm actually sat at the awards do now, looking at your picture in the book, and they've just been talking about it. So I'm sat there, and I'm just like, you know, would have been nice for someone to tell me. So sure enough, as this is happening, I'm getting messages from people, and I'm getting tagged in stuff on social media, and I don't know the first thing about this. So basically, I've finished runner-up, but no one bothered to tell me, basically.
Brilliant.
I got a message off Mark Littlejohn, who was running a workshop up in Glencoe, and one of his clients was actually highly commended in the thing. And I think when they were having the evening meal that night, one of them had said, oh, well, they're doing a Facebook Live of this, you know, the awards do. So I think they were sat down having food, watching this thing live. So Mark's watching this, and he messages me, and he's, oh, congratulations, well done, blah, blah, blah. And I goes, I don't fucking know. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's going, well, and I'm like, so the whole thing was just a bit of a farce, to be honest with you. And what should have been, you know, obviously a, you know, pretty happy moment. I mean, to finish second in the thing, I mean, it's, you know, whether we like it or lump it, it is still the sort of the competition in this country that has the name and the reputation. To finish second in it should be a big deal, but obviously, you know...
Have they been in touch with you since to apologise in any way?
I mean, I've got to pick my words carefully here. But yes, I've had conversations with them, and I won't name the guy because I know the guy and I like him actually. He was very apologetic, and it was clearly just an innocent mistake and a cock-up, which anyone can make. And to be honest with you, the email thing wasn't the thing I was most annoyed about, to be honest. It was more that this error, and I was, just to be clear here, I wasn't the only person that wasn't told. I know of at least 2 other people that were in that book that didn't get an email to tell them either.
Yeah.
So I wasn't an isolated incident, unfortunately. But yeah, this mistake was just kind of an accumulation of mistakes this was always going to happen at some point because of the things that they've kind of got wrong in the past, and it's really disappointing, to be honest, because forgetting my kind of situation, but loads of other people have not been communicated with. And I mean, there was earlier on in the summer there was issues with emails and stuff because I don't know if you can remember, but they actually put out a thing on social media basically saying that we've not been able to contact everyone, but if you check your user account area where you put your images in, go and check it to see if you've been shortlisted, which is really amateurish, to be honest. And the problem with that is that, of course, not everyone is constantly looking at social media or Facebook posts or stuff, so you might have easily missed that, and you might have had an image shortlisted or whatever, and you might not have even known. So yeah, it was just a grand cock-up, but it's sadly in a long list of other massive cock-ups that they've made. And I think when people are paying the kind of money that they are and the profit that they're making now, because they're probably making more money than they've ever made on that competition, it's pretty poor, to be honest with you.
It is a bit of a farce, isn't it? I mean, like you pointed out, Stu, and you know, like I joked about that image. There's a particular image of someone walking against. I'm not sure where that is. That's in. I think it's somewhere on the south coast, isn't it? It's in a town somewhere on the south coast. Yeah, there's a particular wall that's very brightly coloured, and three landscape photographer of the year editions running has had pretty much the same shot in there as a commended or a win. I think one of them was a winner.
No, I'll tell you what it is. So I think it's 3 out of the last 4. But what really blew my mind was that, and this is no shade on the photographer, he's obviously blameless, but it's the same, unless there's 2 of the guy with the same name, the same guy won the category this year, had the same image just about commended last year. So you've got the same photographer with 2 images 2 years running in the book, one a category winner, one a commended. I mean, it's just an absolute joke.
So do they do, first of all, are they doing the same judges every year, or do they rotate the judges? And the second question, has LPOTY just got too big now that they've almost can't control it?
Are you asking me or
you or the group? You know, I'm just...
Well, listen, I don't want to waffle on too much here because obviously, you know...
I think we should ask Stuart. I do. I really do.
All right,
have a beer, Stuart. We'll ask you again.
I'll give my opinion on that. I don't know if it's too big. Yeah, I mean, I think the key thing to understand here is that it's obviously a business. They want to make money, And there's a balance to be struck with that, and I think we've talked about this in the past. But one of the key things that they did in the recent past, I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago, there used to be a cap on the amount of images that you could put in. So if you've entered this comp, you'll see that you can pay for like a bundle of 5, a bundle of 10, a bundle of 20 or whatever.
Yeah.
But you could only ever put 20 in. So they knew roughly how many images they were going to get, and they could manage for it. Now, they removed the cap on that a few years ago, and the cynic in me would say, well, it's just purely obviously to make money.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is they've gone from a competition that 4 or 5 years ago was getting about 20,000 images to judge. They're now up to 70, 80, 90,000 images. So there's already potential flaws there with the judging process. Now, I'm not pointing fingers at judges and stuff, because that's a very subjective thing, but you can't tell me that when you're quadrupling and 5 times the amount of images nearly now, it's not going to affect the judging in some way, the quality of it anyway. Because you've just got too many
you
images.
say that, but if they hadn't done that, I wouldn't have got anywhere near the book.
Well, I was going to say that, Dave.
You've just undermined my pride.
No,
You put every photo you've ever taken since like 2004 in that year's entry, didn't you, Dave? And you had to remortgage your house.
But no, you was talking about perhaps capping, and I thought that because you can now put in as many photos as you want, and if there's this huge influx of tens of thousands of photos, surely it must be a little bit like Instagram, where people are just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and you're not really kind of taking in what's being presented to you. And I was quite judgmental, Gary, of you.
Of me?
Yeah, last year or whenever it was, when you were saying, or the year before, when you were saying about LPOTY being a bit of a money-making thing, and I defended LPOTY, but I said to you in the group chat the other day, I kind of feel now that I'm coming down on your side, that without capping the photos, it is becoming just a big money-making thing, and people are spending that money, and I don't think they're getting judged fairly. That's my opinion.
Everybody comes around to my way of thinking eventually. It does.
Well, yeah,
it takes a little while.
They've extended the categories as well, haven't they? They've added this year at least another 3 or 4 categories, so that is also going to increase the number of entries that they're going to need to look at, albeit it might give somebody an extra space to enter that they wouldn't have found before. But even so, it's inviting more and more entries, hence more and more revenue.
Could I just say something as well to that? So there's 2 or 3 things here as well that probably a lot of people might not be aware of, right? Firstly, sponsors in that competition have dropped like flies. So this is a competition that years ago had quite a lot of blue chip companies supporting it. You're talking Fuji, Adobe, Lee Filters, some really, really big companies. They've all gone. They don't have anywhere near the amount of good sponsors that they used to. They get the exhibition is done on the cheap. It's done through Network Rail. They're probably getting that for free. The categories now, you're saying about more categories, but the one thing that's key here, and I did a bit of digging into this after this bloody farce, but they used to award £1,000 for each of the major categories, and there was 5. Now, the amount of money that they're probably making, that isn't a huge amount of money, to be honest with you. They're not ploughing a load of money back into this by any stretch. They used to award £500 to the runners-up of those categories. That's been taken away. I don't know if it was last year or the year before. So they're actually handing out less money. And another thing that's key as well is that the book looks to me anyway, if you look at the amount of images that are actually commended on the website, and if you go back through the years back to sort of 2018 and before, the amount of images that they're putting in the book is getting less. So the whole thing feels like on the sort of presentation and the sort of resources that they're putting back into the competition is actually getting scaled back considerably. But if you compare that against the amount of images that are getting entered and how many entries there are, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to then start questioning where's all the money going. because this competition started in 2007 and it was 10 grand to the winner in 2007. We're in 2023 and it's still 10 grand to the winner and even less money for the other categories. You know, even if you adjust a little bit for inflation, you'd expect that the amount of money that's coming in, some of that should rise accordingly. I don't think it's much to expect that when people are forking over 35 quid or whatever it is a time to enter images, that a good proportion of that money should be ploughed back into the competition. But what I was saying earlier about there's a balance to be struck between it being a business and it being a competition for the good of photography. It feels like it's gone way too far the other way in terms of profit, and it feels to me as an entrant, forget the stuff that's happened to me this year, but it's felt like this for a while, where as an entrant you feel like they're not doing this for the good of photography. It just feels like purely a money-making exercise, and they're cutting corners on a lot of things. You know, I mean, the administration cock-ups this year are a good example of that. Do you know what I mean? These aren't things that in a proper business should ever be happening, especially when you're taking that amount of money off people. You expect a certain level of professionalism that, you know, just hasn't happened.
So if I can just summarise what you said there, you're saying it's a massive rip-off and the organisers should pay the money back to everyone.
I'd like my money back. Hey, I'll give you another... Sorry, I've started now.
Please carry on. It's normally me, so it's brilliant that it's someone else.
Category winners highly commended get books, right? And it's always been a thorn of contention that if in any other competition where a book is produced, normally if you're in that book, you're provided with a book. So, good example, Natural Landscape Awards. Everyone gets a book. If you're in that book, you get a book. It's not much to ask, given that, you know, without people's images and entries, they don't have a book to start with. So the people who are in it should get a book. Yeah. 2.5 weeks later, runner-up, apparently, in this thing. I still don't have a book. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy. I haven't seen my entry feedback. It's absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. Yeah. Anyway, I'll stop because...
Are we going to share Stu's runner-up image, Gary, on this, or do we point to it somehow? Because it'd be good.
Well, if he sends me 25 quid on that, other than that, he can forget it.
I think we have.
No, yeah.
I think we have to pay LPOTY for that now, though, don't we?
They own it.
They're IP now.
Yeah. No, if you bung the image, we'll put it up definitely. Yeah.
But the whole thing has just really ticked me off, basically. But
we can't tell. You wouldn't know.
No,
we wouldn't have guessed at all. No, totally no. I totally get it. The thing I was going to say, the cynic in me as well, is when you enter. I mean, I haven't entered for a couple of years now, but when you enter, you have to put in your bio and your website and a little bit about you, and it's almost like, well, why do they want that information? Why are they?
Well, they don't need any of that at that stage.
No, exactly.
It's only if you end up in the book. They don't need any of that stuff.
But I'm like, why are they after that information? Are they picking? And this is probably going to sound like I'm sort of degrading your image, which I'm not. But are they picking people who they know have got a big following, who are well-known photographers, that they might sell the book because there's more famous photographers in the book to sell the book?
I know where you're coming from. That's probably a legitimate thing to think. I don't think if anything, I think it's gone the other way. To be honest with you, I think they're active. I think they're actively not trying to avoid picking bigger photographers and get. I actually think. I mean, this is probably a different discussion, but I've questioned the sort of overall quality of that book for a while, and for me personally, I feel like they're actually deliberately lowering the standards of it to get more money in, because if you're
possibly
Joe Blogg's punter who's looking at the standard of those images, and we all sit there every year and go, bloody hell, how's that got in the book or whatever, it means that person's then more likely to go, oh, well, I can produce images as good as that, and there's more money for you. So, I think it's the other way.
I watched a video yesterday from some lady that is in the book, or has been one of the highly commended or commended winners, and she was given tips on how to effectively there you go, on how to get into
There's a tips video for everything, isn't there?
There is. It's amazing the angles that people take. And she did say, and whether this is right or wrong, she did say that it's completely anonymous, that they give the entries or the pictures a code or a number, so the judges
it is anonymous,
don't know who the actual picture is from. So if you believe that, I don't know, but that's what she said.
But the problem is, though, that you've got certain judges on there, and again, it's a tough... That's why I'm not really having a go at the judging process so much, because no matter what they do, there's always going to be flaws in it, but... You will have a proportion of those judges on there that are very active on social media and, you know, are predisposed to those images ahead of their competition.
They'll see them, yeah.
So they'll know who it is, regardless of whether it's listed without a name or not. They'll know exactly whose image that is.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. I feel, Sam, you've been just sitting there on the periphery, just waiting for your moment.
Yeah.
So, do you want to have a comment?
Well, my only comment really with that is one of my massive bugbears is the thing about putting all the details in about images at that first stage, and it's something which actually just puts me off entering competitions, because there's some really good competition. In fact, I think the natural landscape photography competition doesn't ask for those details. Correct me if I'm wrong, Stu, but I don't think they ask for those details.
That's right.
Unless you get shortlisted, and it takes hours to sit with, like, especially if you're Dave and you're entering 500 images, you've got to type all the descriptions down, and you've got to write all the kind of rubbish about, the sun was in the perfect position and I waited in the mist for 5 hours to get this shot, and all of that kind of rubbish. You know, you shouldn't have to write all of that unless your image gets shortlisted, and that's a massive bugbear.
Well, if you watch that video, Sam, there's one of the 3 tips is about being prepared and you know, organising yourself up front in terms of creating a nice folder on your desktop, putting your portfolio images in there, writing at the time where you were, how you took them, the emotion you felt. So it's all ready for you to simply just drop and drag into the LPOTY website. It's all about getting organised. You should watch the video, mate. It's useful.
Can you send me a link and I'll put it in the description?
Yeah.
We watch this. 3 important tips for winning LPOTY.
But I suppose another question then is, aside from the natural landscape photography one, which I agree is a really good competition.
Incredible.
Do we think it's time that there is another competition, or do we?
Pubcast.
There's definitely a void to fill there. Absolutely. Yeah. I can't say too much at the minute, but what I can say is that talking to a few people, there are wheels in motion for potentially something to happen on that front. But I don't know if you'd entered it years ago, but I can't. I'm not promising anything. Yeah. Outdoor. Did you guys enter outdoor photographer of the year?
No.
Oh,
run by the magazine.
Yeah, but it's not. It's not run for a few years, has it?
Well, the Steve, who used to be the editor of it, when he died, sadly, they kind of stopped running that competition, and that was a brilliant competition, and it was similar to the natural landscape one in that, you know, there was a real ethos around just getting the highest quality images and just really focusing on furthering photography. And sadly, since that stopped, I think it was like 2018 when that stopped, we're pretty much left with just landscape photography. Yeah, there's definitely a hole there for someone to come in and create I mean, if you just follow what natural landscapes are doing, but just confine it to the UK, I mean, there's a ready-made formula there for someone to do it. It just needs someone to step up, I guess. But basically, just do everything that LPOTY aren't doing, and you're all right.
Yeah, essentially. So we should do another Pubcast one, by the way. Like, I know, joking aside, we should do a little. You know, we do that little yearly one. We should do another one, shouldn't we?
Didn't we do one at Christmas? So
so we're coming up to Christmas, aren't we?
Yeah.
So
do another one.
Yeah, Dave.
25 quid to enter 3 images. Why are you asking me? What do I know?
Because you
host the website that collects the images.
Yeah, and all the emails go towards you. So
I don't mind if we want to run something.
Okay, all right. Well, we will then. So
what we
send
need
your
is to
images
have
in.
a decent prize, because I'm not even sure if the winner last time collected their prize. Nobody got in touch to say.
Nobody wanted that boomerang.
Yeah,
That
it's kind
packet
of
of
like
quavers is still on the
it's kind of
shelf.
like the end of Cracker Jack, where you went, "Oh, I'll have that and that," and
The prize should be the kudos of being picked as the winner by us. That should be the prize.
well, what we should do is
There is
take
no greater
we
prize.
should take a leaf out of the LPOTY book and just not tell anybody who won.
Yeah. Well, here, I know that feeling of not getting a prize.
We haven't got anything to give. Have we got anything worthy of giving away at the moment? I don't think.
I've got a few bits and bobs that I've reviewed that are rubbish. I mean, that are really good.
Excellent. There you go. Then. So, why don't we actually genuinely, like off the cuff? Why don't we do that now?
Yeah.
So, send in your photos. We'll put the email address below, and we'll run a competition up until Christmas. So it's got to be in by 15th of December. That'll do. Arbitrary date. It's got to be in by the
No
15th.
highly coloured walls allowed.
Yes, exactly. You can't. And if you've entered anything last year, don't send us the same thing. All right, because we'll work it out. We are a bit stupid, but we're not that stupid. Can I do this little? I've got to get it off your chest moment. I think every week we should have a get it off your chest moment.
What, for
I've
you?
got two. Yeah, just for me.
This is just
for
your
you,
feature,
Dave.
isn't it?
Apparently this is Stuart and Dave and me, because everyone else is pretty even-headed. I've got two things I want to talk about this week. Number one, right, bottle tops on bottles of Coke. Is anyone else annoyed by them? No? Okay.
Why?
Well, now, you used to be able to unscrew a bottle off a bottle of Coke, yeah, and take the bottle top off and drink your Coke, yeah? Now, they're attached.
What do you mean?
What do you mean
Does anyone
attached?
care?
What do you
They're
have to do?
attached.
Drill a hole in it then, or something?
No, you screw it off, but you can't take the bottle off. You have to bend it back and then drink the bottle, because they don't like it, because people might like not throw away the caps, and it's bad for the environment.
Well,
But unless
so's all their plastic.
if you've got a brain, yeah, you're going to screw the bottle top back on and throw it away, but you can't now. So every time you go to have a drink, you end up with a nose full of bottle cap. It's annoying. Right, that was just a minor one. Anyway, the big one I want to talk about, right?
See, the
That's very
scary thing is, right, I just think that I'm Gary. After that kind of LPOTY admission, I'm Gary just 2 years further down the line. So
Yeah.
in 2 years,
You
I could be
wait.
back here bitching and moaning about Coke bottle caps.
I'll bet you there's someone in the comments, please. I bet you there's someone else who has the same feeling as I have about these bottle tops. They are really annoying. It's like you unscrew them and you have to fold them back now, and it ruins my drinking experience.
Why don't you just have a can instead?
Well, I've gone to cans.
There you go.
But
Problem
see,
solved.
Problem solved.
Yeah.
I drink
Course.
Pepsi Max and I don't have this problem. Is it?
No, it's not Pepsi. It's just Coke.
It's Coke, right? All right. Oh,
Buy yourself a Coke Zero.
Right.
You'll see. You'll see, and you'll thank me.
I thought this was a
For having a
soft
rant.
drink wide problem, but clearly
No.
just Coke.
No. It's affected me too, because I don't drink Coke, but they have the same tops on my oat milk.
Thank you.
Middle class
You would drink
problem.
Coke.
If you've got a problem with your oat milk, emails to Fortnum and Mason. And the second thing that I wanted to talk about this week, and please, before we get started, I'm not moaning about individuals. Some of the individuals related to this I actually like. I think they're nice people.
That was a
I do,
massive
so
caveat,
if-
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a huge caveat.
It's obviously going to be
narrow it
bad.
down much.
Yeah, you're nice people. I don't have an issue with you necessarily, okay, before we start. But I want to talk about blogs, right? And I want to talk about people using ChatGPT to write their blogs, right? Now, if you want to write a blog about the best microwaves of 1983 ranked from 8 to 1, use ChatGPT. It's brilliant, right? If you want to write a personal blog about something, maybe photography, perhaps, don't use ChatGPT. It sounds ridiculous. It's like, right, so my photography trip would be, if I'm writing a blog, I went out yesterday. I went to it was stunning, stunning location, fantastic. I really enjoyed it. The mist rolled in, right? You do it on Chat GPT. It's like, I wandered out of my door. It was a splendid day, and the world-renowned photographer looked around him. He saw a majestic scene in front of his eyes, and in that majestic scene, I'm like, no one writes like
your
that.
Your father-in-law is talking about selling gear. Have you had any tonight?
Gary, are you thinking of a certain f-stop?
I'm not.
Just out of interest.
No, I like the people. A lot of the people
Which
who
f-stop
write
might
these
that
blogs.
be? Just pick one. Pick any f-stop you like. 7.1? Could it be 7.1? I'm
who
guessing.
write these blogs, I've got a lot of time for, and it's not just maybe that, but there's others, right? But it's like, if you want, like, no one in the world, right? William Shakespeare, if he was alive today, he the most eloquent, like, wordsmith you could find, they wouldn't write like Chat GPT. They wouldn't. It's so obviously fake and AI. Just write it yourself, even if you're a little bit.
But on the other
verbally
hand,
challenged.
Yeah, but on the other hand, if that person or persons did write it themselves, they need help anyway.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going down that road, and I'm going to get myself into trouble because, as I said before, I like some of the people as a person that I may be having the conversation about. I just have an issue with, just don't use it. Just write it yourself. Honestly, it's like, it's supposed to be a blog about your own personal experience. So if you get AI to write it, it's not your personal experience, it's the computer's experience that it can't possibly experience of what you did.
So your next thumbnail isn't going to be, I wandered lonely as a cloud.
It's like, I tumultuously took this photo with amazing spontaneity, detail and gratitude. It's like, stop it.
I'll tell you something. Yeah. Dave will never get a job as an ambassador for Case or Nissi or any of the filter manufacturers because he's got no filters at all. That guy, has he? He's brilliant. I love you, Dave, for that. You just don't care. It's brilliant.
But I feel like I feel like I'm doing you a favour by telling you this now, because I don't want you to go down that road of sounding stupid, because I like the people, but it sounds fake and wrong. And even though one of them called me a fat prick, by the way.
Was that Chat GPT? What can I call Gary Norman? A fat prick. Thank you.
They'd have been way more eloquent.
Did they do it in Latin?
It would have been way more eloquent than that.
I wandered lonely as a fat prick.
Massive Prosecus.
Biggest dickus.
Humongous phallus.
Cumulus pointeus.
Phallus grossus. I don't know.
Mushroom
I'm just.
Sorry.
I'm actually just really trying to be nice, and I know it's come across as probably me being moany, and it has, but I just think that it's. I'm sure I'm not the only one who reads these things and thinks you didn't write that, and then you kind of lose your authenticity, don't you? Because at least even if it's not what you want, not as flowery and as wordy as you want, at least it's written by you, rather than stuff, because you put things into AI and they don't know. I'm trying to dig myself out of the hole now.
I think we should move on.
But you put things into AI and they don't know you, do they? They don't know you're not like the world. I mean, some of the stuff,
Gary, just put that spade back on the rack. Just put that spade back on the rack. Go on.
Let's talk about winter gear. Who brought up the subject of winter gear?
Topic.
Jamie. Okay, Jamie.
You really bring us down to earth there with a lovely, boring topic about winter gear following the discussions we've just had. Well, no, yeah, as always, topic question gets raised in the chat and people throw something in. And I didn't know whether we'd actually discussed this before in the past. I don't think we have, but we might have done. But as we're coming into winter and we're coming into the period where we start to focus the priorities on keeping warm, keeping dry, and sensible clothing versus what we've got stuck on the top of a tripod, I just thought it was worth discussing really gear and how important we feel gear is versus the expense of new cameras and new lenses. Really, should we be investing more in comfortable, warm, waterproof gear? And what your thoughts on that are, really? You know, is it something that we invest heavily in ourselves? Is it something we find important? I'm assuming it is, because I think there's often a question about, you know, what's the next camera you're going to buy, and people say, well, actually, I'd rather invest it in a decent pair of waterproof trousers and a decent pair of boots than a new lens. So, sort of topic for discussion.
Yeah, well, I'll jump in, Jamie. I very much consider my outdoor clothing to be as important as any other element of the photography equipment I use, especially living where I am and winters being what they are up here. It's a major consideration, and definitely I'd say most important is gloves. I would say, not I've necessarily got the best gloves, but I don't have these photographer's gloves, which everyone seems to use. I've not tried those, but I always have a sort of glove liners and decent thick waterproof gloves over the top. But the other thing which I've, so I guess sort of tied in, I'm going to go slightly off track here, is one thing which I'm really keen to try this winter is more mountain hiking in the winter, because it's something I've always wanted to do. But it's something you need to be obviously properly prepared for, and it's not cheap to buy the equipment. So I've just bought a pair of insulated waterproof trousers. You need crampons, ice axe, which has been sat there throughout every Pubcast episode probably, and I've never used it. But I think I've just taken the label off it. But to go with that as well, it's not just for clothing, but it's knowing how to do it and how to be prepared. And I've actually, funnily enough, just booked myself on a winter skills training course. It's actually a photography workshop / winter skills training course, which a friend of mine is running, which I'm really, really looking forward to. So I'm doing that in March next year. I don't know if I'm allowed to plug it on the Pubcast. Am I allowed to plug it?
Do it.
Gary's selling cameras.
I'll try and have a break so you can edit it in. Go. Yeah. So actually, as a friend of mine called Benjamin Baron Drecht is actually, I was out doing photographs with him recently, and I happened to mention.
He's a really good photographer, that guy.
He's brilliant. He is absolutely brilliant. And he, I, and Ellis were out shooting. And I happened just to mention in conversation that I was hoping to do a winter skills training course, and he said, "Oh, are you?" Because he and a friend of his who's a mountain leader, he's a mountain, whatever you call it, mountain leader person, are running these courses in Glen. He's doing one in Glencoe and one in Torridon, so it's perfect for me. So and they're really, really reasonably priced this year because he's just doing it as a trial as well. So this is sounding like an advert now, but it's I know other photographers who do a similar thing, and they're really quite expensive. So when he mentioned this, I was like, right, I'm doing it. So yeah, really, really looking forward to that. But I'm hoping that is going to. It's one of those things which I've been wanting to do with my photography, is get on top of the mountains in some snow, and obviously you need to know what you're doing when you're doing that. So yeah. That's my 2 cents on it.
Take a sledge. That'd be my advice. Take a sledge. Whee! All the way down to the bottom. But then I'm not a mountain leader person thingy, so yeah.
But I agree with Sam, and as soon as Jay put that topic in the group, I'm a big believer in taking the right clothes when you're out shooting, because if you're cold and wet, and it's just a miserable experience, it really is. So I must admit that's something that I have invested in quite heavily, actually. And when I was in the lakes a few weeks ago, we was on a particular campsite that didn't have as many facilities as our normal campsite. So I kind of overpacked a little bit with clothes, but the footwear that I took, I only took, I think it was 4 different types of footwear. One was a pair of like Wellington boots, some good insulated, they're muck boots, and I took my trail runners, my hiking boots, and just a pair of trainers. And you know what? I wore all 4 pairs of footwear, including the wellies. I wore them like 3 or 4 times within that 2 weeks. So I think if you buy the right gear, it can make your experience so much more comfortable.
Did you hike in the wellies?
No, where we was kind of quite flat actually. There was a little bit of elevation at times where we at that time I put them in the car.
The reason I ask is that this time last year I went on a hike in wellies, and it was brilliant. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't go back to walking boots now because they're completely waterproof. You can't beat having dry feet, and they're really, really comfortable. And I climbed up Penarol Wen in them, which is a decent test.
Yeah. Well, I think roughly where you're saying, Dave, because I'm going to butcher it. Afon Fleur, the river.
Close enough.
Close enough.
Avoncleur.
Right. Well, there last year when we all met up, before I met you, I kind of popped up there and I wore my muck boots up there because I know that fell is so wet no matter what time of year you go up there. And I hiked up there in them, and it was lovely because the time I went up there before that, my feet were soaked because I went in trail runners, and this time I went up in them boots. Totally different experience.
Yeah.
Do you not ever think though that you look a bit stupid in wellies? I mean, I know they're comfortable
Well, as
and they
long as you're
probably do
wearing
the job. And,
other clothes, then you're fine.
Some clothes. Yeah.
But if there's just wellies and John
that's
Thomas,
the issue. That's the issue. I didn't think about that.
No, I wear they're sort of ankle height, and then my trousers sit over the top of them, so you can't even tell they're wellies.
Yeah.
I was just thinking what Sam was saying about the special winter stuff makes a change from the summer in Scotland where you have speedos and a midge net.
I was going to say, I'm pleased you're raving about the muck boots, because I had a pair of Hunter Wellingtons bought to me a few years ago, and whilst they're great wellies, they're not great for walking in. And even me that doesn't do any hiking, just walking around the flat fens, it gets very uncomfortable. So I've asked for a pair of those short muck boots that you're talking about for Christmas. So hopefully Santa will deliver them, because I think having comfortable waterproof Wellingtons that you can walk in without getting blisters or what is definitely worth it.
well, I've done. I know it's on the flat, but on multiple occasions, I've done my circular walk, which is 8 miles around here, and I've done them in them muck boots, and no problems, no blisters, not uncomfortable, anything. Yeah.
I'm going to have a rant about Hunter Wellingtons now, because I had a pair of Hunter Wellingtons which I bought a couple of years ago, and they started leaking within a year, so I would never I'm never buying those again. So yeah, decent pair of muck boots is next on my list.
Yeah, they are good.
Yeah.
The only thing, that I would change if I could with them muck boots, I wouldn't mind getting a pair with a zip down the side, because I just find that if your feet get hot, getting them off is quite a challenge. So getting one of them off, because you use your toes on the other boot to get that off, that's fine. But then the other one, when it's covered in mud, I can't get it off. Sometimes I'm there for 5-10 minutes rolling around trying to get that other second welly off. But apart from that, yeah, I would highly recommend them. Sorry, I brought the mood
Have your
down
slippers
there,
got a zip up the middle?
I've just got the one big slipper, Dave. Both feet.
Any other winter-related clothing, advice that we'd like to give?
I'd say just one other thing. It's probably more linked to hiking than anything else, but not only spending a good amount. Well, you do need, you get what you pay for with this stuff, but but getting the right stuff. I mean, I've definitely been a victim in the past when I've been hiking of not having like a good layering system. You know, you can buy this stuff, but if it's not strategically placed, you can end up coming a cropper a little bit. I've had sort of gone up fell walking before with a down jacket, not in the down jacket, but I've had a too heavy a down jacket, and then it's weight in the bag. So for things like that, a good base layer, a good lightweight down jacket, and stuff that you can keep taking on and then putting on, taking off and then putting on again. It's easy to sort of overlook that. You just think, all right, I'm just going to bung some gear in the bag and be done with it. But you need to give a lot of thought to a good layering system, I think. Something I've definitely concentrated on in the last few years anyway.
And
And
for
a
most
good pair
important,
of gloves as well. Good pair of gloves these days for me is a must.
yeah. And I'd say also the most important thing is an umbrella, as demonstrated by the pose that I was striking in the Lake District.
Indeed.
And your latest video.
Yeah, well, pretty much all of my photography in the last few weeks has been done with underneath an umbrella, and the photos are better for it. Apart from that one in the Lake District where it was done behind an umbrella.
Apart from that one of the inside of the umbrella, which wasn't quite so good. But yeah, I feel like I want to contribute to this conversation, but I don't do any walking or have any expensive gear, so I'm not going to.
I don't think it needs to be expensive, but you do get what you pay for, as Stuart said. You know,
Yeah,
I think-
exactly. If you go to Sports Direct to buy all your stuff, mate, it's never a good thing. I would like to say, though, that it's lovely to be back on season 4 and have Dave crunching again. I've missed it, Dave. I've really missed it. I'm looking forward to the edit.
What is it tonight?
Nuts, fruit and nuts,
Fruit and
and
okay.
dark chocolate.
Oh,
Do you start off with good intentions and then
No.
get about halfway through and just go? Yeah.
I always,
I'm just going to eat fruit.
I
now.
always have some nuts mid-evening, every evening.
Oh, okay.
And we're in a
changing
pub,
that,
aren't we? I thought it was a virtual pub. You eat nuts
It is
in the
a
pub.
it is a virtual pub. Yeah, yeah. I'm not. I don't want you to feel like the other guys. I don't want you to feel like I'm criticising. I'm not criticising Dave. I just want to help you with your nut issue. That's all. Sorry, I've gone off topic. Are there any more, winter related clothing conversations to be had?
we covered it, then.
No,
Any
I think
crampons needed in the fells or on the fens?
well,
or-
I've got a particular photo that I really want to get. Well, probably won't be this year. Probably be January, February, if I can get to the lakes, and that requires a good hike, perhaps 800 metres. And if it's the conditions that I want, then I will be taking my spikes, because I've been up there before without the spikes, and that is treacherous. That really is. So,
Which
that's-
one is it?
what's that, mate?
What's the route? Which way are you going?
Up to Black Sow.
Oh, you don't have to tell me.
No, it's up to
Ah,
Black
right.
Sow.
Oh, yeah, you
But
were saying.
I've been
yeah.
up to the Old Man before on the same time, and that was, there was so much ice, and coming down, I thought I'm going to break a hip here.
If it's
Luckily-
that hard compacted stuff, it's nasty. If you
Yeah.
don't have micro spikes or
Yeah.
something, you do need them.
Yeah, but that is a bit extreme. But for me, I don't go anywhere. My waterproof trousers and waterproof coat are always packed in my bag, along with a nice set of gloves as well.
Actually, that's an interesting topic for maybe for another week. We could talk about photographs that we haven't yet got, that we're waiting for, that we're waiting for the right conditions to get, that we've probably looked at a number of times and just not had the conditions for. We could maybe do that another week. Yeah. And equally, actually, while we're on that subject, I mean,
Your nuts are so bloody loud.
while we're on that subject,
Dave the Rustler.
if you guys have got any topics, because actually I got a feeling that we got a lot of very good topics towards the back end of last year, on the Facebook page that we did not use.
We did.
So
we did. And we also,
if you could just remind us of those, because we've forgotten about them.
we also just need Darren to keep going
good.
down a pub on a Sunday morning, and he churns them out after his third or fourth pint.
Yeah.
Not on a Sunday morning,
He
Jay.
does.
I'm not that bad. Maybe Sunday afternoon.
All right, then afternoon.
Oh,
But yeah, I mean,
on the
yeah,
subject of winter clothes, I just bought some
Is there a delay?
Craghoppers waterproof trousers because I get fed up with having over trousers. And I went out in horizontal rain last weekend, and they're amazing, completely waterproof. But they're just
Craghoppers,
like
yeah, they were
ordinary
good
trousers.
brands, yeah.
The ones I just bought are Craghoppers as well, the insulated
Yeah.
ones. And they've also
Brilliant.
got anti-tick stuff in them as well, which is brilliant up here.
Ah, okay.
I want to say a dad joke there, but I'm not.
Go on, do the dad joke.
Just crosses then. Yeah. Anyway, I know it's a terrible joke. That's why I did, but Darren forced me into it. It's not my fault. Let's move on. I mean, Daz, have you got any? If you had a couple of beers,
Yeah. Why?
if you got any topics you want to drop in now,
I've had
because
loads of topics. You just gloss over them.
what the Sony? I remembered that.
that one.
We need to talk about the Sony.
You know what?
But-
Jay's
but-
right. I mean, I go down the pub and I just, sit there all on my own, minding my own business. And after, 9 or 12 pints, I think, this would be a good topic. Gloss over the lot. So, yeah.
Well, drop one in now. I tell you what, if you could find one that would put Jamie on the spot, that'd be
don't
brilliant.
start,
'cause
don't
We
start.
haven't put Jamie
No,
on the
no,
spot
no.
at all.
We're not
have we?
starting off season 4 like
should
this.
actually be
I
a
shall
regular
leave.
feature.
Put Jamie on the spot. Yeah,
No, I shall
we could
leave.
have that along with get it off your chest. Yeah. Well, look, I've got written down here camera clubs. Camera clubs, Dave. I believe you wanted to talk about camera
Would
clubs.
you like me to help you out with that? Please, Dave. Okay. So, take 4.
Yeah.
There was a poll on Twitter, and I just happened to be scrolling through, and it was
Was it Andrew Atkinson?
It was, and I thought
That's it.
I might leave a comment, so I got ChatGPT fired up. And the premise of this particular poll,
Did it say Camerath Clubber?
I'm trying to help you out here.
Go on.
We're never going to cover this topic; it's too serious.
Yeah, we are. No, come on. We can be serious.
Well, his question was, do camera clubs stifle creativity? And the reason it struck me was at the point where I looked at it, it was 80-20 saying yes. And given that most of the people that respond to his polls are photographers, I assume, it got me thinking, because I interact quite a lot with camera clubs. I've done 7 or 8 talks this year. I probably do 10 or 12 a year on average. So yeah, it's at least once a month. And for the most part, the people I interact with are really decent guys, keen on photography, and at grassroots level have a lot to offer, and they enjoy the social aspects of it and all that sort of thing. But it got me thinking that camera clubs per se aren't the problem. The problem is the framework of the organisation in which they operate and the basis on which they run competitions. And there are some fundamental structural issues which clearly stifle creativity. There's no two ways about it. That's my opinion. When I answered the poll, I said yes. And funnily enough, I didn't leave a comment because my accent isn't posh enough. But, sorry, Gary, you're going to have to leave a reference into that. You could drop that bit in just there. Anyway.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly. But it got me thinking. So I wrote a blog post about it, and what's been quite interesting is a number of people have written back, and either you've got people who are members of camera clubs saying, yeah, I agree with you, but I still enjoy a lot about it. And, I'm saying this from the standpoint of being associated with 2 camera clubs, and despite the shortcomings, it's not to do with the club itself, it's to do with the framework in which it operates. These ludicrous diktats that come down from little Hitlers at regional level that say this is how you must do things. And at the moment, I'm actually toying with the idea in conjunction with somebody else who doesn't watch this, luckily, because I'm probably being a bit previous, but we're toying with the idea of setting up an association, a group, call it what you will, not a club. We won't use the name club, to operate outside of the regional national frameworks and just be a bunch of people that enjoy photography and hang out and do photography. So, I just be interested if any of you have visited camera clubs, what your opinions are. Have you been recently? Do you care? That sort of thing, really.
Well, I'll tell you what, Dave, I would be, obviously we're too far away, but what you've just described, like the latter, I would be so interested in that. That's why I only went to Camera Club about, I think 3-4 visits, maybe half a dozen tops, I suppose. And it just wasn't for me. I just wasn't interacting. I just kind of went there and I sat there, and I'm not being rude to people who enjoy it, but it was just photo after photo and judge's opinion after judge's opinion. And then you broke for 10 minutes at half time. And by the time you got a cup of tea, you still didn't speak to, your peers that was there. And then before it was the second half, and then it was time to go home. And I wasn't interacting with anyone. I just kind of went there. I could have done it all over Zoom, really. But what you're talking about, actually being there with people, interacting with people, sharing ideas and da-da-da-da-da, that's what I would want out of a camera club, is to build up, a friendship kind of group. A bit like we've got here, where you have a chat, you share ideas, perhaps locations, or, and talk about how did you get to that photo, just the interaction I would want out of that. So I think what you're just talking about there, if I was closer, that would be right up my street.
That's the sad bit. The best bit about Camera Club was the break.
Yeah,
I used to go.
You're
and
right.
it's true
I
though.
felt the same.
I'm not doing it as a joke. I used to go to Camera Club. I mean, I used to go a lot. But the best bit was when there was a 10-15 minute break and you sat with people and chatted about stuff. The rest of it was dry and stale, and when you had competitions, it was, I don't know. That's stifling. That's the stifling creativity bit for me, is that you judges, and I know, Hugh Alban will be watching this, who's a Camera Club judge, and I've got a lot of respect for the guy, but for me, Camera Club, the judging of the competitions was so inconsistent, but also so prescribed. It was, they never looked at the photo and went, I really like this photo. They looked and went, there's a bright spot here, but it's slightly overexposed, and this bit down here, and they never actually looked at the image, and there was a thing, and there was a judge who actually said this: Nabs, this image is Nabs, not another bloody sunset or not another bloody sunrise. It's like, well, another one, I remember it vividly. There was a fantastic photo of the Vestrahorn in Iceland. Is it called the Vestrahorn? Yeah. The Vestrahorn in Iceland. He went, I've seen so many of those.
What, just dismissed it
I don't
without
care
looking
if
at
you
it?
Yeah, I don't care if you've seen loads of those. It's still a brilliant photo. And that's the problem. That is the problem. And that's why I don't know, I don't go anymore.
But I think what Dave said earlier, because I mentioned it when I stopped going. I think we spoke about this on the Pubcast before, but when I stopped going, I got a phone call from them, and they said, why have you stopped coming?
Yeah.
And I said what I've just explained to you guys, and I said, if you was to make it more kind of user friendly, and he actually said, you're not the first person that said that, but what Dave said, it falls under a framework of this is how we operate on Camera Club. And I was thinking, well, that's ridiculous. If you've got enough people saying what I'm saying,
Just
change it. Make it
But
more,
it's interesting
make it more
that
inclusive.
There are a number of things that are quite easy to change, and yet there seems to be a fundamental resistance to it. Firstly, camera clubs, for the most part, originated a long time ago, and they've kind of had this rolling tradition of how they operate, and somebody to come along and disrupt that is a major political problem within a framework of people. Oh no, I'm the chairman and this is how we do things. This business of sitting in ranks with somebody at the front talking about stuff, whatever it may be, different stuff each time, but nevertheless it's a lecture. And one of the camera clubs that I go to, we had an evening in the summer where we pushed a load of tables together, and we all sat around the table like knights of the round table, and we chatted about all sorts of things, all photography related, and it was by a country mile the most interesting and engaging evening at a camera club I've ever had. And it occurred to me that if we did more of that, it would be more engaging. People joined camera clubs of which I've been associated. Specifically, I'm a beginner, I don't know what I'm doing. This sounds to me like a good environment to learn. And the elements of learning that were available in that environment were almost zero. They were none the wiser, so what do?
No.
They drift away. They can't, they say, I'm not learning anything here. And the old guard that have run these camera clubs for decades are, let's call a spade here, they're tending to shuffle off, and there's nobody coming in at a younger age to replace them. And it just occurred to me that setting up a group, get a venue, call ourselves, I don't know, the Anglesey Photo Group. Anybody could be a group. Don't call yourself a club, whatever you do. You want to differentiate yourselves. Never, ever have this, we all sit in rows, bloke at the front talks, you've got 10 minutes to grab a cup of tea. We would never, ever use that format. We'd be just as likely to be actually taking pictures. We'd book a model, get some studio lighting, whatever. It seems to me that it's a really, really easy problem to fix if the people running the clubs have got any interest in fixing it. But they don't seem to understand that the reason their numbers are dwindling, the reason round here 2 or 3 clubs have completely shut up shop because they ended up with 2 men and a dog. So though the ability to change that is there very, very easily. The stroke of a pen, no problem at all. Let's just change how we do things. But nobody on the committee seems interested in doing that for the most part in most camera clubs. And where we get directions, missives, diktats coming down from the North Wales Photographic Association saying you must do this and you must do that and you all must have a formal email address and yada yada, and you kind of think, no, who the hell are you lot? You're not in charge of us, on your bike. So the key thing about if we set up an alternative group is we would not be affiliated with any kind of regional organisation, and no competitions. We wouldn't have competition nights. What we would have is feedback nights. We won't use the word critique because it's too close to criticism. What we'd use is feedback. What's your 2 favourite most recent pictures? Bring them, put them up, explain to the audience why you took them, what you were thinking, get some feedback. The sort of thing that we would do within the confines of our Facebook group or whatever. You could do that in person, in a venue, with some drinks that you're drinking all night. Go get a coffee, come back to the table.
All night drinking.
Yeah, bring a tin. It just strikes me that there are a million different ways of camera clubs being really, really intensive, nurturing venues for creativity, as opposed to the dead, fossilized, sclerotic, out of date setup that they currently are.
Yep.
This monologue is sponsored by ChatGPT.
Yeah.
No, joking aside, I can't
Yeah.
agree with Dave anymore on that. I think I think that's fantastic, and I hope you go through with it, Dave. I really do.
I'm going to give it a go and see if anybody turns up.
I really hope you do. Yeah.
Well, if
I think
maybe I should put my 2 cents in as well as so coming from where I am as I guess the target audience of what many camera clubs would probably want younger people to be thinking about joining up in camera clubs, and I have never ever considered joining a camera club. Never interested me, and the reason is because as an outsider, as someone who's never been to a camera club, and I'm not saying this is what camera clubs are, but as an outsider perspective of what a camera club is, from someone who doesn't know better, is I see it as being something similar to the Danebury metal detecting club from the detectorists. And I get the impression that they're run by people, and again, I'm not saying this is what it is, but as an outsider perspective, I would envision it as being maybe run by people who have a certain idea of what photography should be, who then judge things in a certain way and tell you need to be doing things in a different way. And that's never held any interest to me whatsoever, because I'd rather just watch a few YouTube videos when I was first starting out with photography and just go out and do it. The one thing that would appeal to me and it's not likely to happen around where I am. But if I was at that stage, what would appeal to me is more of a social group of different photographers where there is no leader who's telling everyone how to do their photography. It's more just a group of enthusiast photographers at different levels who can find ways of learning from each other or showing people who are less experienced than them how to do things. And also it gives people who might not be confident enough just to go out at sunrise or sunset by their own. It might just be and I'm not just talking about landscape photography either. It might be things like you might want to try doing studio photography. You never tried it before. A camera club might be able to give you that opportunity to do it. And if a camera club was operated more in that way, then I can see that being appealing. The other thing I would say, obviously with Hannah she's not done a lot of photography recently, but one thing she's mentioned to me before is, as a female, going out on her own is something which can be very off-putting. And I know there's things like there's a female group called She Clicks, but if there are more groups which were more sort of aimed towards females as well, so that they would have a group that they could go out together, then that sort of thing would also be really, really helpful. It's just this outside view of it being a group of snooty old men who sit around saying, oh, well, that's not sharp, even though it's a beautiful image. That's the outside perception which would put me off.
That's not just the outside perception, that is a reality, unfortunately. I would literally say to anyone under 45, don't bother even walking into a camera club, because that is the reality of what it is. I thought when I first went, this is probably 10 years ago, I thought it's going to be lots of people talking about their cameras, talking about technique, talking about how to take photos. It's not. It's just a bunch of old guys and just talking about really dry topics. And I went to one. I think it was a straw that broke the camel's back about 3 years ago. It was a talk about tube station photography, and I was like, oh, this could be quite interesting. Shots of people on the tube. And it was a guy, and he spent the whole an hour and a half talking about, well, this is the shot from Watford Junction, and here's it was the buildings.
Well,
he was talking about the buildings. What a beautiful Art Deco building this is. It was built in 1937 and. Probably doesn't work with Art Deco, does it? But in 1918, and look at the frontage here, and oh my God, kill me now. I just, we had an AGM. Seriously, my camera club had an AGM, and we spent 25 minutes with two guys arguing about whether they should increase the pixel size of images for the competition. I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Seriously, but that's camera club.
But I feel that there is room and there are enough photographers in all the regions of the UK where, and bearing in mind that we can leverage social media. I mean, that's one thing camera clubs are pretty poor at. And get a small bunch of people together, get to know new friends and acquaintances, and set something up that is the antithesis of what camera clubs are. And I think you'll find it works really well, and people enjoy it and look forward to it. And it might be nice to end up with a national network of photo groups. So set yourself up as the Barton photo group. And just do everything that you would like to do that camera clubs don't do. No, but people will clump together in a room above a pub.
I agree.
That sort of thing.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And just hang out and have fun. And then when we rerun that poll in 5 years' time, people will say, yeah, camera clubs are shit, but camera groups are brilliant.
Can I ask a question? Because I've delivered a lot of camera club talks over the years, but I've never been an active member of one. But why are they so competition focused? I don't understand that, because I would do the talks and then you do the Q&A afterwards, and you're hoping someone is going to sort of ask you about process or inspiration or things like that. And all the questions I used to get were sort of 70-80% of them were just how, because if you've done well in like major competitions and stuff, people want to know why, and they think there's some magic formula to it. And I give them the same boring answer I do every time, which I like the picture, so I'll put it in the competition. But I don't know why they're so rooted in competition. It's such a bizarre concept to me, to be honest. But
I just think it's years and years and years and years of conditioning.
It's ingrained, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's just that's what's important to camera clubs. I mean, I've said this probably 5 times on the podcast, so I'm going to bore everyone by saying it again. But I went a couple of times to camera clubs. People didn't even know who I was, didn't even pay. If I was a girl, if I was a 35, 40-year-old woman, oh my God, everyone's, it's a woman, rub legs. But no one had any interest in who I was at all until no, but it's true, I'm not lying. They were like, wow, women, fresh meat. But
do you know what? I understand what you're saying. It sounded incredibly pervy, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, it's true.
You need to be
You're a
between
misogynist.
50 and 110, because then you just
at
become
least
invisible.
Yeah. And can I just say, I wasn't talking about my attitude there. I was talking about other people's attitude. But the point is no one cared who I was. No one. They didn't even know my name. I went for 3 weeks. No one even bothered. I entered a couple of photos in the competition that were decent. And then all of a sudden, everyone wanted to know. The chairman's coming over to me. Oh, brilliant. Oh, thanks so much. Because they can enter those images into external competitions. And then all of a sudden, everyone's interested in who you are. And they all want to know who you are because it's all about the photograph. I've got no idea. To me, I thought going to a camera club would be everyone talking about photography, talking about cameras, talking about the way you take photos. But it just isn't. I think it's ingrained. I genuinely. I just think it's just the way it's been for years, since the 60s. And no one can get out of that psyche, no one can get out of that mindset.
No, but I think there's plenty of ammunition where people who actually agree with us would say that if there's an alternative, they would participate. What I would say to anybody who might be tuning into this who tends to agree, try and set something up. Even if you start with 3 of you in a pub, it's a starting point, but do everything opposite to the way camera clubs operate, and you'll probably find it's very successful.
I look, though, at these Facebook groups. I look at your Facebook group. I look at the likes of Photo Peeps. I look at stuff like that. I think they are the new camera clubs. They are the photo sharing platforms, That's the modern generation's version of the, and then when you hit 60 and you're like, I'm too old to do anything else. Sorry for over 60s.
It's only 5 years away from me.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
It's a few years behind for me.
Get ready for the walking stick. But I just no. I think social media are the new grounds for photo clubs, for photo camera clubs essentially, and they have a different ethos about it. It's about photo sharing and sharing your experiences rather than being droned onto by some boring bloke about tube stations.
So given that,
one thing I would say though is that if you do set up, sorry,
we've got a delay.
I must have a delay. Sorry, I was going to say one thing I would say though, if you are going to set up one of these groups, is don't use ChatGPT for your profiles.
No. I was going to say, given
this group is born of a passion.
Given everything that's been said, I guess what we're saying is that camera clubs have got a pretty short shelf life, because effectively when the old guard, as we've called them, the 50 to 110, have given up on photography or aren't able to go out and do photography anymore, then there's not going to be replaced by anything. So the type of group that Dave's talking about will take over naturally, and camera clubs will die. The bureaucracy and the regimental hierarchy involved with clubs and chairmans and all the rest of it, it is a thing of the past. It's a council meeting, isn't it? Or is it detectorist meeting, as Sam said? That type of culture will eventually die out and be replaced by let's collaborate, let's work together, let's work on it in a more of a group mentality and be a little bit more open to other people's opinions rather than the judge is the one that you listen to.
Well, Exactly. If we all lived within striking distance of each other, we wouldn't be meeting on Zoom. We'd be in a pub somewhere. And we would have the same conversations. We probably wouldn't video them, but the fact remains that we, in effect, would be a group. And we go, oh well, next Saturday, let's go here. Oh, let's go do that. Let's go and look at some old buildings at Watford Junction. Whatever we fancy doing.
In all fairness, Dave, we probably wouldn't, because then we couldn't edit Gary if he was live. Do you know what I mean? It would be a disaster, wouldn't it?
I thought I'd been all right tonight. I've tried. I got something to say actually. No, it's very quick. I'm just checking the time against Jamie's background, because last time that clock was wrong and it bugged me and I never mentioned it. Is the clock right today?
That's right.
7:42.
Well, it's
Okay,
7:45.
good. Because last time it was. Because it was way out last time. And I wanted to say something. I thought, well, no one's ever going to know, because with that, I don't know what time we record, but your clock was wrong.
Well, I didn't.
Anyway.
It's only right when we're in this time of year, because in the summer I don't change it. I don't change the hour, so we just.
That's like my car.
I set
Do
it
you
in
know
the
what else have a
winter.
problem with their car?
I've got a problem with my van.
My car, literally, the clocks change, and for 6 months I just have to accept that it's an hour forward.
Two things: the car and the oven. I can't change the oven clock. I have no idea how that works. Hannah has to do that if it's going to happen, and the same with the car. Like,
Well, here's
Hannah,
a tip
Hannah
for you,
can just
Sam.
do it.
Turn the electricity off at 1 minute to midnight, and then as midnight clicks in, switch it on, and it'll be at the right time, won't it?
That's a brilliant idea.
My knobs fell off
I might try that.
of the oven. Yeah, I can't change it because the knobs fell off, so I can't change it.
That's a one for your out of context thing.
Yeah.
Jamie out of context.
Not
Out
fella.
of context, Jamie Overland. Yeah. Before we go, I mean, we've been recording for quite a long time, but there's quite a lot to cut. Before we go, Daz, have you got any sort of random, sort of topic that you want to cover? Like, I don't know, if your arm was a penis or something. Because you normally have something along those lines.
It's usually like a would you rather, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, would you
no,
rather,
I can't
yeah.
think of anything offhand, I must admit.
God for that.
Yeah, I can certainly drop them in the group. I can.
Yeah.
You're fine.
Okay. All right. Well. Okay. Well, I guess we should say goodbye at this point then. It's been great. It has been great, hasn't it? Let's be honest. But I've missed you guys. I've missed this chat. I really have. Don't all jump to agree.
It is good to be back.
No,
Yeah,
it
It is good to be back, yeah.
Even though we're
Yeah.
not around next week. Unless
you guys.
unless you want to edit next week.
You guys are more than welcome next week.
I'm
I
actually
just
out
can't edit.
next
That's
Friday
all.
night. I think I'm brushing my hair
It's
or
convenient, isn't it?
going out doing something. I can't remember what it is now, but yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm not around for 2 weeks now.
Are you not?
No, because we can't
Okay.
do next week, and then the week after that, I'm in York.
Okay. So is everyone else available next week?
Yep.
I mean, this is really something we should be, chatting about. But you might be, Dave.
What next week? Next
Okay.
week.
Well, no, the week after. The week after next.
Yeah, I'm all right.
Well, we'll see where we're at. Anyway, shouldn't really be,
There's no good getting all professional now. You bollocksed it up long ago.
I know. So thanks for watching this week. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time without Daz and potentially other people, but who knows? We might get other people in to replace someone. I don't know. It's been great. Bye.
Is that it? That's the worst. You have had 4
It's been
years.
great, bye.
4 years to
dear.
actually prepare for that ending.
Sorry. Thank you so much for watching. By the way, please get in your photos. We'll put the email address in below. Get your photos in. We'll judge them, and there'll be amazing prizes supplied by Dave. And yeah, we'll see you in a couple of weeks. So I know it's
you
odd though, isn't it?
wankered?
Starting. Yeah.
I thought you was.
I think he's doing all right. I'd give him 7.1 out of 10.
been on that gate. It's been on the
All right,
gear.
okay. Let me.
No, you need to leave
me-
that bit in.
You've got to keep all of this in so people know what we have to
What
put
you
up
go
with.
through, yeah.
I haven't had a drink for a long time, a number of weeks. So, yeah, get your photos in. It'd be
You've done that bit, mate.
Yeah, you've done that, yeah.
We've covered
Yeah.
that bit.
Okay, where am I at
I
now?
think
Where
you
am I
just
at?
need to say goodbye.
You need to advertise your
goodbye. It's been-
father-in-law's lenses and stuff.
Oh yeah, right.
See you later, guys.
OM1.
Bye-bye.
Bye. See you later.
Bye.
Oh yes. Yes.
I need a wee now.
Yeah, I need a wee.